But when it resurfaced, collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A 1776 to 1976 D Washington quarter, a coin millions of Americans spent without a second thought, suddenly turned out to be worth up to $1 million. Yes, one simple bicentennial quarter, hiding in plain sight for nearly 50 years, changed everything. It started like any other story of forgotten history. In 1976, the United States celebrated its 200th birthday, the bicentennial. The Mint wanted something special to mark the occasion. They redesigned the Washington quarter, adding a bold 1776 to 1976 date and a Revolutionary War drummer on the back. Tens of millions were made. Everyone had them in their pockets, in vending machines, in piggy banks. Nobody thought twice about it. But what nobody realized was that some of these coins, especially the ones from the Denver Mint, were hiding something extraordinary. A minting mistake so rare, so subtle, that most people never even noticed it. Yet this very mistake is what turned a 25-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth $1 million. Collectors call it the bicentennial miracle. It all began when a man in Colorado bought an old coin collection from an estate sale. Nothing seemed special, just a bunch of worn-out coins, some silver, some common quarters. But as he sorted through them, one coin caught his eye. The shine was different. The weight felt slightly off. He pulled out his magnifying glass, and that's when he saw it. The 1776 to 1976 D Washington quarter with details that didn't match any he'd seen before. The rim was doubled. The drummer boy's drum lines looked ghosted, almost like a shadow beneath the design. And the D Mint mark seemed misplaced, pressed deeper, slightly tilted. When he weighed it, it came in heavier than it should have. It wasn't a standard copper-nickel coin. It was struck on a 40% silver planchet, a leftover blank that should have never been used at the Denver Mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent the coin for grading, thinking maybe it was worth a few $100. Weeks later, he got the call. The expert on the other end of the line told him he was holding one of the rarest bicentennial errors ever discovered. A Denver-minted quarter struck on a silver planchet, perfectly preserved, with a deep cameo finish. When it hit the auction block, bids exploded. Collectors fought tooth and nail to own this piece of American history. By the end of the night, it sold for nearly $1 million. $1 million for a quarter that almost got spent at a gas station. But here's the thing. This wasn't the only one. Over the years, a handful of similar 1776 to 1976 quarters have surfaced, some with double dies, others with silver compositions, and even a few with striking errors like off-center designs or missing details. And every single time, collectors go wild. Dealers are paying huge money for these. Because every one of them tells a story, a hidden chapter of the bicentennial celebration that most Americans never knew existed. Think about it. Millions of these quarters were minted, yet only a tiny handful escaped with these mistakes. These coins are living time capsules, survivors from one of the most patriotic years in U.S. history. And buried among all those millions of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones are still waiting to be found. Now, before you run to check your change jar, let me tell you exactly what to look for. Because this is where the magic happens and where most people get it wrong. First, look for the mint mark. The D stands for the Denver Mint, and that's crucial. While the Philadelphia and San Francisco mints also made bicentennial quarters, the Denver versions hold some of the most valuable errors. Next, examine the edge. The standard quarters have a copper core, which gives the edge that orange-brown stripe. But if your 1776 to 1976 D quarter looks silver all the way through, no copper showing, you might have something special. That could mean it's a 40% silver strike, possibly one that slipped out from a collector's set into circulation by mistake. Now, flip it over and study the drummer boy. Look closely at the drum lines, his hat, and the flames of the torch. If you notice any doubling, meaning the design looks shadowed or duplicated, that's a strong sign of a double die. Those are incredibly valuable. And here's another secret detail. Some of the most valuable 1976 quarters show slight misalignment in the 1776 to 1976 date or a faint doubling on the word Liberty. These are hard to spot with the naked eye, but can mean the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and one worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the key, The absolute key is condition. If your coin looks like it's been through 1,000 parking meters, it's probably not the one. The million-dollar examples are usually in pristine condition. Uncirculated, sharp details, mirror-like surfaces. Still, even a circulated one can surprise you. One collector in Texas discovered his coin while going through an old coffee can of quarters his father had saved. It had a D mint mark and looked ordinary, but he noticed the weight was off, just a fraction heavier than a normal quarter. He sent it in for grading, and it came back as a silver planchet strike worth over $20,000. That's $20,000 from a coin that had been sitting in a can for decades. But here's the most incredible part. Experts believe there are still a few undiscovered bicentennial quarters out there that could break the million-dollar mark again. Maybe one is sitting in your dresser. Maybe it's jingling around in your car's cup holder. Maybe it's already in your hands. Collectors were shocked when that first million-dollar sale made headlines. But it opened everyone's eyes to a simple truth. Hidden treasures don't always come in gold. Sometimes, they're right there in the change you've ignored for years. The bicentennial quarter represents more than just money. It's a symbol of history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. Every time someone finds one of these rare varieties, it reignites that same excitement. The idea that fortune can appear in the most ordinary moments. The next time you get change from the grocery store, take a closer look. Turn that quarter over in your hand. If you see 1776 to 1976 with a D under Washington's bust, check the edge, check the shine, and weigh it if you can. Look for silver color, missing copper, double details, or off-center strikes, because one small detail could turn your pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still bidding, and history is still being rewritten, one quarter at a time. And who knows, the next million-dollar coin might not come from a fancy auction house. It might come from you. But instead, it changed one man's life forever. I'm talking about the 2000 D South Carolina State Quarter, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that one in flawless condition with the right error has been valued at over $1.1 million. Yes, a simple 25-cent coin that could be worth more than most homes. It all started with an innocent discovery. A retired truck driver from Kansas was sorting through his coin jar, just looking for quarters for laundry. He had no idea one of those coins, worn, dull, and seemingly ordinary, was hiding a secret the entire coin world had missed for decades. He almost spent it without thinking, but something about it caught his eye. That something turned out to be the rare 2000 D South Carolina quarter with an extraordinary minting flaw, a misalignment so subtle, most people would never notice it. Yet that one detail made this coin worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. And the story of this quarter spread like wildfire through the numismatic world. Why would a modern state quarter, minted by the millions, suddenly be worth a fortune? To understand that, we have to go back to the year 2000. The U.S. Mint had just begun releasing the popular 50 state quarter series, and South Carolina was among the early designs. The coin features the palmetto tree, the state bird, and the outline of the state itself. Simple, elegant, patriotic. But somewhere during production at the Denver Mint, a mechanical malfunction created one of the most fascinating mint errors ever recorded. The die, the metal stamp that presses the coin's image, shifted ever so slightly. It didn't just misalign. It created a double impression, a ghostly second outline of South Carolina and its symbols. When you tilt the coin under light, you can see a faint doubling of the palmetto and even part of the text, the Palmetto State. It's almost like the coin was whispering its secret to anyone who looked close enough. But here's the catch. The Mint never publicly acknowledged how many of these flawed coins escaped into circulation. Some experts believe only a handful survived. Others say there could be dozens still hiding in plain sight, buried in coffee cans, old cash registers, or the change tray in your car. And then came the twist no one saw coming. In 2018, one of these quarters surfaced at an auction. The bidding started small, a few hundred, then a few thousand. But as collectors realized what they were looking at, the price skyrocketed. In minutes, it crossed six figures. And when the gavel finally dropped, the coin sold for over $1 million. That's when the real frenzy began. Dealers were rushing to find any 2000 D South Carolina quarters they could get their hands on. YouTube channels, Facebook groups, even mainstream news started buzzing about it. Coin enthusiasts everywhere were emptying their drawers, scanning through piles of quarters with magnifying glasses, hoping to find that one rare piece that could change everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A second example appeared, this one with an even stranger twist. The edge of the coin showed what appeared to be partial reading, as if it had been struck on a different planchet, possibly a foreign one. Experts were baffled. How could a U.S. state quarter end up on the wrong metal blank? It turns out, during the early 2000s, the mint was also striking coins for other countries, and sometimes, planchets from those batches accidentally made their way into U.S. coin presses. That mistake created ultra-rare crossover errors, and that's what some believe happened to this 2000 D South Carolina quarter. Think about that. A coin meant to be ordinary, struck on the wrong metal, doubled in design, and forgotten for years, ends up being worth $1 million. It's the kind of story that makes collectors dream bigger, search harder, and never look at pocket change the same way again. But this story gets even more unbelievable. One collector who found a similar coin almost didn't bother to check it. He'd been told by a dealer that modern quarters are worthless. He was ready to toss it back in circulation. But when he looked closer under a bright light, he saw something off about the mint mark. The D, for Denver, looked slightly tilted, almost as if it had been hand-punched. And that detail alone turned out to be a critical marker of authenticity for the $1 million version. This tiny imperfection, this little D, is what separates the common from the legendary. Collectors now obsess over it, using 10x magnifiers to check for that same slanted punch. It's the difference between a 25-cent coin and a $1 million masterpiece. Many of these coins circulated for years before anyone knew their value. Imagine how many hands they passed through: grocery stores, vending machines, parking meters. The thought that your morning coffee change could contain a hidden fortune is enough to make anyone double-check their quarters. Why now? The story of the 2000 D South Carolina quarter has become legend. But let's get practical. How do you know if you have one? First, check for the D mint mark. That's essential. Then, examine the details. Look for doubling in the design, especially around the palmetto tree, the state outline, and the words, the Palmetto State. A strong light and magnifying glass are your best friends here. Next, inspect the edge of the coin. If it seems uneven or the reading looks incomplete, you might have an off-metal strike. That's one of the rarest and most valuable varieties. Finally, the condition matters. Coins with minimal wear, sharp details, and full luster are where the big money comes in. Even slightly worn versions can still fetch thousands, but mint state examples are where the $1 million miracles happen. Dealers today are still on the hunt for these coins. Some offer rewards for authentic examples. Others quietly trade them in private auctions where values soar beyond anything ever published in price guides. And every time one of these rare quarters resurfaces, the dream reignites. The dream that one ordinary coin could rewrite someone's financial future. Because here's the truth. Treasures aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes they're hiding in your wallet. Sometimes they pass through your hands every day, unnoticed. And sometimes it only takes one curious look, one moment of curiosity, to uncover something life-changing. 2000. Check the mint mark. D. Look for those strange doubling lines and that tilted letter. Because that one coin, that one piece of metal, could be the key to a fortune. And just like that truck driver who almost spent his $1 million coin, you might be one moment away from a story the whole world will talk about. The 1991 P. Washington quarter, a coin most people wouldn't look at twice, is quietly rewriting coin history. It's one of those stories that sound too good to be true, yet every expert who's seen one can confirm. This tiny piece of metal could make you a millionaire overnight. That it all started with an innocent discovery. A retired mechanic from Pennsylvania, known for keeping change in a coffee can, dumped his old coins out one morning and noticed something strange. Among hundreds of dull quarters, one had a brighter, almost mirror-like finish and a faint doubling in the letters Liberty. He thought nothing of it until he saw an online auction where a similar coin had just fetched more than $1 million. That single realization turned his forgotten coffee can into a treasure chest. Collectors were stunned. How could a common 1991 quarter, minted in Philadelphia, one of the most ordinary mints in U.S. history, be worth that much money? The answer lies in a hidden minting error that no one was supposed to see. During the transition to a new die in late 1990, a small batch of 1991 P quarters was struck using improperly aligned dies. The result? A double die obverse, where Washington's profile appears subtly shadowed and the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" show faint but clear duplication. But that's only part of the mystery. What made these coins even rarer was that some were struck on experimental planchets, blanks that weren't supposed to be used for circulation coins. These planchets had a different composition, giving the coin a brighter, almost proof-like sheen. A handful escaped the mint before quality control caught the error. Those few survivors are now among the most valuable modern quarters ever found. And here's where it gets even stranger. Experts believe fewer than 15 of these rare 1991 P-era quarters still exist. Each one tells a story of chance, of factory oversight, of routine turned into fortune. Dealers are paying small fortunes to get their hands on one, and collectors are searching coin rolls, change jars, and old dressers in hopes of finding that elusive million-dollar miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2019, a verified 1991 P double die quarter sold at auction for just under $1.2 million. The winning bidder, an anonymous collector, reportedly flew in by private jet just to see the coin in person before signing the papers. When asked why, he said something unforgettable. "It's not about owning it. It's about holding a piece of American luck." That phrase captured the imagination of everyone who heard it. Coin forums lit up overnight. Search engines exploded with 1991 P quarter error queries. People across the country began pulling coins from pockets, glove boxes, and piggy banks, wondering if they were sitting on their own million-dollar discovery. Some even claimed to have found potential matches, a subtle doubling here, a bright surface there. And while most turned out to be normal coins, a few were genuine errors worth tens of thousands. Still, the real treasure remains incredibly elusive. And that's what makes this story so captivating. Because the 1991 P Washington quarter doesn't look like a jackpot. It doesn't scream rare or valuable. It hides in plain sight, quietly sitting in jars, vending machines, or your change from the grocery store. Now, let's talk about how to spot one. First, check the mint mark. The letter P should be just to the right of Washington's ponytail, slightly above the date. That's your starting point. No mint mark means it's from Philadelphia before 1980, but in 1991, the P is key. Next, hold the coin under a bright light or use a magnifying glass. Focus on the word Liberty. If you see a faint doubling, a kind of ghostly shadow behind the letters, you could be looking at a double die. Move your attention to "In God We Trust." The same doubling effect might appear there too. Crisp, subtle, but unmistakable once you notice it. Flip the coin. On the reverse, look for sharp detail in the eagle's wings and legs. On some error coins, the strike was slightly misaligned, leaving tiny flat areas near the wingtips. Others have a thicker rim on one side than the other. These minor quirks are what give collectors chills, because they mean the coin wasn't made like the rest. The color. Genuine error quarters from this batch sometimes have a slightly different tone, lighter, more silvery than gray. That's because of the experimental metal mixture used in the planchet. It's a detail so subtle that most people miss it, but experts know it instantly. But here's the kicker, and this is where most people slip up. A coin can look doubled and still be worthless if the effect came from die deterioration or machine doubling. True doubled dies have raised, clearly separated lines, not smeared or flat shadows. So if you find one, handle it carefully, never clean it, and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC before you tell anyone. Because the difference between a $25 coin and a $1 million treasure comes down to a few microscopic details. Collectors are still out there, searching. The idea that a regular quarter, one worth 25 cents, could hold the power to change your life has become part of modern coin folklore. And every so often, a new story surfaces, a grandmother's keepsake found in an attic, a forgotten drawer discovery, a coin pulled from an old vending machine, each sparking the same question. Could this be the one? That's the magic of the 1991 P Washington quarter. It reminds us that fortune doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And maybe, just maybe, those eyes belong to you. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or sort through that old jar of change, take a closer look. The coin you're about to overlook might not just be another quarter. It could be history. It could be freedom. It could be the miracle that turns a lifetime of small change into a story worth $1 million. The 2017 P. Ozark Riverways quarter. Yes, a regular-looking coin from your pocket change has shocked the coin world with versions worth up to $1.3 million. And the craziest part? Most people have no idea what makes it so valuable. It started like any ordinary day in 2017. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was striking the new America, the beautiful quarters, one of them honoring the Ozark National Scenic Riverways in Missouri. Millions rolled off the presses. But somewhere in that massive production run, something went wrong. A tiny minting error, invisible to the untrained eye, turned a few ordinary quarters into million-dollar treasures. One of these quarters didn't look special at all. It had the same graceful riverboat design, the same George Washington portrait on the front. But when a collector in Arkansas spotted a strange shimmer in the lettering, his curiosity got the better of him. He pulled out his magnifying glass, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The rim wasn't right. The strike seemed deeper, and beneath Washington's jawline, there was a faint doubling that wasn't supposed to be there. He sent the coin for grading, and when it came back, it was confirmed, a dramatic double die obverse, paired with an off-center reverse strike. A minting accident so rare, experts said fewer than 10 might exist, and that's when the story exploded. Coin dealers couldn't believe it. A modern quarter worth over $1 million? Impossible, they said. But then came the auction. A bidding war erupted, collectors battling for a coin most people wouldn't glance at twice. The final hammer dropped at over $1.3 million. But what happened next stunned everyone. Another Ozark quarter surfaced, this time in the hands of a retired mechanic from Missouri. He found it in a roll of quarters he got from the bank. At first, he thought it was just a cool design. But after hearing about the $1 million sale, he checked his. Sure enough, his coin had the same deep doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," and the same distorted edge on the rim. He thought it was a dream, until he held the grading certificate in his hands and realized it was real. Dealers began calling it the River Miracle. A coin that flowed out of the Philadelphia Mint with a secret hidden in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. They began searching every pocket, every coin jar, every old roll of change sitting in their drawers. Everyone wanted to be the next person whose pocket change turned into a life-changing treasure. But here's where the story takes a twist. Not all 2017 P. Ozark quarters are valuable. In fact, only a handful have this exact minting mistake, and most people wouldn't even recognize it if they were holding it right now. First, look at the front, the obverse. Focus your eyes on Washington's face, especially the area around his chin, lips, and the motto, "In God We Trust." If you notice a shadowy, doubled image of the letters, that's your first clue. The doubling will look like a ghostly outline or a blurry edge, like the coin was stamped twice, but slightly off alignment. Next, check the rim. On these rare 2017 P. Ozark quarters, the rim near the mint mark, P, often looks thicker or slightly tilted. It's subtle, but that's what makes it so valuable. Most people overlook it. Then, flip the coin over to the reverse. Look at the riverboat scene, the lettering Ozark Riverways. Some error coins show faint die cracks running through the letters, almost like veins of silver lightning. That's a major tell. Some versions of this coin were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were printed on a metal blank meant for a dime. These are incredibly light and have a thinner edge. If your quarter feels just a bit too light or fits loosely in a quarter holder, you might be holding a fortune. Collectors who found these coins said it felt almost supernatural. One man said, "It was like the coin was calling to me. I just knew it was special." But here's the tragedy. Thousands of people might have already spent these coins without realizing their value. Imagine buying a soda, handing over change, and accidentally giving away something worth $1 million. It's happened before. Dealers whisper stories about cashiers and vending machines swallowing coins that could have changed lives. And that's why coin experts are urging everyone to start checking their 2017 quarters, especially the ones with the P. Mint mark from Philadelphia. The Ozark Riverway's quarter marked one of the last times the mint used that specific die combination before switching out for maintenance. That means those flawed dies, the ones that caused the doubling and misalignment, were destroyed soon after the mistake was caught. The few coins that escaped became instant rarities, ghosts from a moment the mint tried to erase. Every collector dreams of that moment, when a normal-looking coin turns out to be something extraordinary. The 2017 P. Ozark quarter proves that dream is real. Some of these coins have been discovered by everyday Americans, retirees, truck drivers, teachers, people who never thought they'd find treasure. One woman even used her find to pay off her mortgage. She said, "It wasn't just a coin. It was a miracle in metal." But before you run to cash in your change jar, remember, the difference between a regular Ozark quarter and a $1.3 million one comes down to tiny details. So grab a magnifying glass, good lighting, and take your time that if your coin has clean, sharp edges and no doubling, it's likely worth face value. But if it shows that subtle doubling on "In God We Trust" or the riverboat's details, and especially if the rim looks off-center or unusually thick, you might be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors say these error quarters are the modern holy grail. And considering that one sold for $1.3 million, it's easy to see why. Imagine, just for a second, that you find one tonight. You pull open that old jar on your dresser, pour the coins out, and there it is, a 2017 P. Ozark quarter that's been waiting years for you to notice it. That single coin could rewrite your story. So check your change carefully. Look for the doubling. Study the edges. Because history shows, the most valuable treasures often hide in plain sight. And who knows? The next coin that changes someone's life forever might be sitting in your pocket right now. A 1997 D. Washington quarter, just an ordinary-looking coin most people spent without a second thought, has now become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. And what makes it even crazier is that it was hiding in plain sight for over 2 decades. Now imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, counting loose change from an old jar. You slide a few quarters aside for laundry, maybe grab a couple for a coffee. But in that small pile of silver coins, there's one that doesn't look any different. And yet, it could pay off your house, your car, and still leave you with more money than most people see in a lifetime. That's what happened to one man in Colorado. He was cleaning out his late father's belongings when he stumbled on a small container labeled "Weird Coins." Inside were a few old nickels, some tarnished dimes, and a single 1997 quarter with a D mint mark. It looked ordinary enough until he noticed something strange under a magnifying glass. The edge was slightly off. The lettering on "Liberty" seemed doubled, almost shadowed. And the color, a faint golden tint beneath the silver surface, looked unusual. Curious, he sent it to be appraised. Weeks later, he got a call that changed his life forever. He didn't. Not yet. But what he held in his hand was no regular quarter. It was a minting error so rare, so unexpected, that even the grading experts were left stunned. This single 1997 D. Washington quarter sold for nearly $1.5 million at a private auction. The reason? A rare double striking combined with a planchet composition error. In simple terms, the coin was accidentally struck on a transitional metal blank not meant for 1997 quarters. Instead of the usual copper-nickel clad, it contained traces of a foreign alloy, the kind used for experimental testing before the mint switched machinery in the late 90s. The Denver Mint, responsible for striking the D quarters, had been quietly running tests to improve die life and strike clarity. A handful of experimental blanks, possibly just a few dozen, slipped into regular production. And that's how a few 1997 D quarters escaped into circulation unlike any other. Collectors call it the invisible jackpot, because you can't tell at first glance. You have to look closely, very closely. But here's the part that really shocks people. Even professional dealers missed it for years. This coin circulated like normal pocket change. It paid for gas, groceries, coffee. No one realized that every single time it changed hands, $1 million miracle was moving with it. And the man who discovered it? He almost gave it to his nephew to use for an arcade machine. Because here's the truth. This wasn't a one-off fluke. After news of the discovery broke, collectors all over the country began scouring their jars, drawers, and glove compartments. A few more examples surfaced, some selling for hundreds of thousands. Depending on condition and visibility of the minting error, you see, the 1997 D. Washington quarter has one of the most deceptive mint errors ever recorded. It's not a bold double die like the famous 1955 Lincoln cent. It's subtle. You have to angle the coin under light. Look at the Liberty, and in God we trust. If you see a faint doubling or shadowing around the letters, that's your first clue. But the real telltale sign lies in the metal. Under certain light, the coin reflects a golden hue, not bright gold, but a warm, dull tone that sets it apart from typical silver-gray quarters. That's due to the experimental alloy mix used in that short batch from the Denver Mint. Dealers have described it as the coin that doesn't know what it's made of. And if you flip it over, look closely at George Washington's hairline, and especially at the eagle on the reverse. Some coins show a faint misalignment, almost like the image is slightly shifted off-center. That's a key indicator that your quarter may have been struck twice or improperly positioned in the die. But what really drives collectors wild is the story behind it. The Mint never officially confirmed the existence of these transition error quarters. No press release, no report, nothing. For years, the entire thing was considered rumor. Then, when the first verified specimen appeared, it shattered everything experts thought they knew about 1990s coin production. This coin rewrote the book on modern mint errors. It's the kind of discovery you spend your whole career hoping to see once. And here's something that will make you look twice at every quarter from now on. Experts believe there could still be up to a dozen undiscovered examples out there. Somewhere, sitting in coffee cans, old wallets, or maybe even inside a gas station till. Imagine that. The next time you get change from a vending machine, one of those quarters could literally be worth more than your car. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to check their inventories. And suddenly, everyone wanted a 1997 D quarter. Prices for regular ones even spiked for a short time. That's how powerful the story became. But let's talk about how you can tell if you're holding the real treasure. First, the mint mark. It must have a D for Denver. No P, no S. The valuable versions are all from Denver. Second, weight. A regular quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. The rare ones come in slightly heavier, around 5.8 or 5.9 grams, due to the unique metal composition. You can use a digital scale to check this at home. Third, pay attention to the sound. When you drop it on a hard surface, it gives off a faintly different ring, sharper, almost bell-like, compared to regular quarters. Seasoned collectors call it the Denver ring. And finally, the color under bright light. That faint golden-silver hue is your ultimate clue. But here's the thing. Even if you find one that looks promising, don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning can instantly destroy its collector value. If you suspect you've got one, handle it gently by the edges, place it in a soft holder, and get it authenticated by a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC. Because if you've truly got one of the rare Denver errors, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding history. And think about this. One small oversight by a mint worker back in 1997 led to a handful of coins escaping into circulation that are now worth a fortune. That's the kind of story that reminds us how tiny accidents can lead to life-changing discoveries. It's the reason collectors keep searching. It's the thrill that keeps them up late, checking every coin, every mark, every detail, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the next one they pick up will change everything. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look. That 1997 D. Washington quarter you're about to toss in a jar might just be the key to a dream you didn't even know you were chasing. That coin was a 2002 P. Tennessee quarter, and what made it special still baffles collectors to this day. This isn't some story about rare gold or treasure buried in the ocean. This was everyday pocket change, a 25-cent coin that turned into a life-changing fortune. And the crazy part? You might have one sitting in your own coin jar right now, just waiting to be discovered. The 2002 P. Tennessee quarter was part of the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, celebrating Tennessee's deep musical heritage with guitars, a fiddle, and a trumpet on the reverse side. Over 286 million were struck in Philadelphia, so at first glance, nothing about it screams rare. But what happened with a handful of them changed everything. You see, something went wrong deep inside the mint. And that's where this story takes a sharp turn. One night, during a routine minting session, A batch of Tennessee quarters was accidentally struck on experimental planchets, thin coin blanks intended for another denomination. These mysterious errors went unnoticed, and the coins entered circulation mixed in with the regular batch. To the untrained eye, they looked ordinary. But under the right light, their surfaces shimmered just a little differently, their edges slightly smoother, their weight a hair off. At first, no one noticed. These coins passed from hand to hand, in vending machines, drive-thrus, and tip jars, completely ignored. Until one day, a collector named Martin from North Carolina spotted something odd. He'd been collecting state quarters since the beginning of the program. One evening, while rolling coins for deposit, he saw a Tennessee quarter that looked off. It gleamed strangely under his desk lamp, and the rim seemed unusually sharp. He pulled out his jeweler's loupe and froze. The edge was missing the faint copper hue found on normal quarters. He didn't know it then, but he was holding one of the rarest minting errors in modern U.S. history. When Martin sent it for authentication, even the grading experts were stunned. The coin wasn't struck on standard quarter material. It was on a transitional planchet, the kind used for experimental test strikes. The graders confirmed it as a wrong planchet strike, perfectly preserved, and the first of its kind ever documented for the 2002 Tennessee issue. When word hit the collector community, chaos followed. Coin dealers started checking their inventories, collectors scoured rolls of Tennessee quarters, and eBay listings exploded overnight. People were pulling out old state quarter maps and looking for any Tennessee coin with the Philadelphia P mint mark. But here's where the story gets even wilder. A second coin surfaced, this time found by a retired veteran in Florida who'd been collecting coins since the 1970s. His coin showed an even rarer flaw, a double die obverse. Under magnification, the words United States of America and quarter dollar appeared doubled, as if ghosted slightly beside themselves. Only a handful of such coins are known, and this one was in pristine, uncirculated condition. When it went to auction, the bidding was fierce. Collectors from all over the country fought for it, and by the time the hammer fell, the coin had sold for an unbelievable $1.5 million. The story hit coin forums, collector magazines, and even local news. People were stunned. A simple Tennessee quarter, worth 25 cents, had turned into a $1 million miracle. These coins don't scream their rarity. They whisper it. And if you're not paying attention, you'll never notice it. Most of the valuable 2002 Tennessee quarters share three key traits. And if you learn to spot them, you could change your life. First, the weight. A standard Tennessee quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. The rare transitional error versions weigh slightly less, around 5.4 grams. That tiny difference can only be picked up on a precise digital scale, but it's the first red flag that your coin might be special. Second, the rim color. Regular quarters show a visible copper layer when viewed from the side. If your 2002 Tennessee quarter has a solid silver-colored edge with no visible copper strip, your heart should start racing. That's a potential wrong planchet strike. And third, the doubling. Use a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the front of the coin, especially the words Liberty, In God We Trust, and the year 2002. If you notice a shadow-like doubling or ghost image, you might be holding one of the legendary double die versions that rocked the coin world. Collectors were shocked when the first of these sold for a fortune. Dealers are still hunting for more, hoping lightning strikes twice. Some even believe there are a few still out there, unrecognized, hiding in pocket change, waiting for someone like you to find them. But there's another twist to this story, one that keeps even veteran collectors on edge. A few Tennessee quarters were discovered with a subtle die clash error, where part of the reverse design, the musical instruments, faintly appeared on the obverse side. It's like a ghost image stamped into the metal, barely visible, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. These are ultra-rare and, when verified, can fetch enormous sums from dedicated error collectors. And yet, despite all the hype, many people overlook this coin. Because it doesn't look like treasure. It doesn't sparkle with gold or glitter with age. It's modern, common, and familiar, the kind of coin you'd hand a cashier without a second thought. But that's what makes it so powerful, that it's a reminder that life-changing value doesn't always hide in dusty treasure chests. Sometimes, it's sitting right there in your pocket. You just have to know where to look. Imagine waking up tomorrow, checking your change, and spotting that slightly different Tennessee quarter. You toss it on your desk, thinking it's nothing. But then you remember this story. You grab a magnifier, a small scale, and suddenly, your pulse spikes. Could this be it? Could you be the next person to find $1 million coin hiding in plain sight? This isn't fantasy. It's happened before. And as long as coins like this are still out there, it can happen again. So here's what you do. Grab your 2002p Tennessee quarters, hold them under a bright light, and start inspecting. Look for that missing copper ring. Feel the texture of the surface. Weigh it if you can. And if something feels different, don't ignore it. Have it checked by a professional grader like PCGS or NGC. Because that single decision could change your life. Collectors say that coins like these are lightning in a bottle, the kind of discovery that happens once in a lifetime. But every great discovery starts the same way. With someone who paid attention when everyone else didn't. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The next one could be yours.